All right, welcome back to MaxBet Podcast. I am excited for today because we have not only one guest, but we have two joining us from High Roller Technologies. We have Ben Clemes, who is the CEO, and we have Seth Young. He is the CSO of High Roller Technologies. So welcome to the show, you guys.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you.
Glad to be here.
So tell me, you guys are in iGaming, and you guys have extensive backgrounds in gaming across the boards, not just in iCasino where you're at right now. Where is the industry at right now?
I think it's like in a point of transition and regulation. Like it's been going through regulation for quite some time, but now you're kind of at this bypass where there's, crypto casinos, sweep casinos, they're coming up, other forms of sports betting, prediction markets. And, it's like been kind of a shift where everything kind of went regulated. And now that there's the other side of it, yeah, I think it's kind of like this strange impasse right now.
So I've been in the gaming business now just over 20 years, which is sometimes hard to say out loud. I have a lot more forehead now than when I started, which is hilarious. But you've seen this interesting shift from everything being Wild West in the early 2000s. Then you had in the United States in particular, a lot of gray market or like pre-regulated market stuff, not necessarily legal or illegal. There was no enabling legislation. And in parallel, you had the rest of the world, mostly Europe, I guess, regulating iGaming, building markets that are now mature. And for me, iGaming is sort of at this interesting inflection point in North America where markets are starting to regulate. Around the world, markets are really starting to regulate. And it seems like one of the reasons I'm excited about High Roller is it seems like a great team, great tech, great timing. It's almost like PointsBet was a few years ago, but for online casino, and PointsBet was a great success story where I was previously. So it's super exciting. I think we're at a point in the market where the United States is probably the largest regulated market in the world. It's going to be regulated. If China ever does it, that would be the number one, but I don't see that happening in my lifetime. So it's a huge opportunity. I think speaks to why so many people are getting into ancillary verticals in the space, maybe looking at the history of DraftKings and FanDuel and how they push the limits to get sports betting legalized in many ways in the United States. Really started the conversation. I think sweepstakes in some ways is doing that, and crypto casinos.
How do you see sweeps evolving? Because that still does feel like the Wild West a bit.
It's a big question, Hillary.
Yeah.
Oh man. So sweeps is interesting, right? Sweeps is it's objectively legal. You look at it, sweepstakes operators, they don't write the law. I think this is so important to say, but we can read it. Right? I say we, as in, people that are in the industry. And I've had some experience in sweeps. I know Ben has too. We have a lot of friends in the market. I know there are a lot of opinions that are negative, a lot of opinions that are positive. But I think if you look at it from a straight up legal perspective, it's a legal game with a bona fide value proposition. So put that aside. Doesn't mean it's not controversial. Right? I liken it a little to daily fantasy sports in some ways. I was in that market back in 2012. When FanDuel DraftKings started, I had Star Fantasy Leagues with a few partners. And that was a new product coming into a market. And it wasn't competitive with land-based casino interests. They proved companies like Star Fantasy Leagues, DraftKings, FanDuel, mostly them, proved good product market fit. People were excited about it. And it filled a gap where sports betting couldn't, because sports betting wasn't legal. And I think sweepstakes casino is also kind of that. It's definitely filling a gap where there's in many states, not a legal online casino product or regulated product that people can play with. But it doesn't mean it's not controversial, but this is not DFS. This looks and feels like an online casino operating under a different mechanic of law, which does make it legal. That could be subjective, kind of like DFS was. But I think that's why we're seeing so much opposition to it too. I mean, if you're a tribal entity, gambling is sometimes all you have for your economic development initiatives. It's what puts food on the table, shelters over people's heads, and the commercial casinos obviously have a vested interest in this too. And they're not in the market. You don't see a lot of those groups really pushing the limits of what is acceptable. So I see it as a threat, and rightfully so, right?
Yeah.
So sweeps is, I think it's filling that gap. On one hand, I want to say it could catalyze the conversation for online gambling legislation, and I hope it does. On the other hand, the U.S. has a long history of trying to shut things down without really understanding them, and or building law without a real understanding what the fallout may be. So, VGW's been in the market for a very long time. They've done quite well. They're kind of the poster boys for what the market is. But as more people became aware that they were doing so well, and there was product market fit for this and demand for this in the U.S. Clearly, sports betting was legalized as a function of quantifying the unmet demand in the black market. Online casino is huge, but you have a lot of people that have gotten into the market for the wrong reasons. People sort of making hay while the sun shines, saying maybe we have 2 years, 3 years, we can make money. We don't really care about the consumers. We care about our business. And I think the difference between operating a business long term with consumer protection in mind, with operating as if you're regulated, absent regulations, and operating to get as much as you can out of it at any expense is very different. So you have really good operators, really good ones that I would play on in the regulated market. And then you have really bad ones who are effectively out there and scamming people left, right, and center.
I think that's the point, right? Like anytime like sweeps is legal through that, the framework, but when you're then self-policing, and some people are really good at self-policing, and then they have the customers sort of experience in responsible gaming at heart, and then others, as Seth said, don't care. And it's about us making as much money as possible. And, that's the concern. So, if there's like some sort of small regulatory framework that covers it, that protects the players better, maybe, that's the step into more of a universal regulation of online casino.
So people look at regulation and they say it's bad, right? No, regulation is great. You have pretty clear guidelines about what you can and can't do. Consumers have rights, which is super important. And there's some kind of standardization of best practices across operations. And like the Sweepstakes Promotional Gaming Association, the SPGA, has in some way tried to do that, but it's really hard to bring people together when you have people that want to do it right and people that don't care about doing it right. So there's no harmony. And as an industry that's trying to be legitimate, and it should be. And so I guess it's also subjective, but it's operating legally. You have, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you're VGW, if you're some other big site, and you have a sweepstakes site B that is in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, it's a reflection of you, even if you're not doing that. And I think that's maybe the biggest problem facing the sweepstakes. There's a lot of problems facing the sweepstakes, but that's a big one. Yeah,
I think that's a lot of the argument I'm hearing is you're just asking people to go by the honor system at this point.
So I'm a nerd for gambling and the law. I dropped out of law school many years ago. Didn't think the world needed another Jewish lawyer from New York. You can edit that out, actually. Let me back this up. That's a good one.
We're keeping it.
Yeah. But it was a function of being a nerd for this. And in the U.S., there's so many loopholes that you can drive a Mack truck through as it comes to gambling law. And then when some people say like there's innovation and exploitation sometimes go hand in hand. It doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it interesting. But as a function of being this nerd, I would go and scour the terms and conditions and policies of pretty much every sweepstakes site that emerged. And some of them are really tight and some of them are really bad. And so those bad ones, they can be exploited by both the operator and the player. The good ones are harder to exploit. But nobody really reads those, right? So if you've seen a lot of legal cases in the United States with sweeps, like civil cases, people trying to sue for whatever, and it's all compelled to arbitration. There's never been, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, there's never been like a case deciding this on its merits, whether or not sweeps is legal gambling. Or illegal gambling. So it hasn't really gotten out of there. What if the terms and conditions are unenforceable? Then what, right? What if somebody's not a registered sweepstakes in a state where they're being sued? There's some untested areas of this that I think really takes like capital and understanding to fight. I'm not sure the average consumer has that kind of education. It's a really interesting topic. I think we'll see something happen within the next 12, 24 months. I think it's inevitable. Don't know which way it goes. There are probably some operators that are interested and maybe even likely to channelize into a regulated environment. And then there are some that are like, when we see the heat, we're just out, full on out.
But how do you, this is more of a question. I guess I'm taking over.
Yeah, no, it's...
with the home lawyer here. But, with regards to the sweeps, because it's off the back of a sweepstakes law, right? Which is like what McDonald's has used and stuff like that in the past. Like, how do you isolate casino from that?
Well, that was early days, 4 or 5 years ago. This was an interesting question because, like, well, if you're going to sue a sweeps business, or like you're going to open up the law again, you're not just dealing with BGW or other sweepstakes sites. You're dealing with Apple and Google, and Pepsi, and Coke, McDonald's. It's all under the same law.
Yeah.
So it's not. I think maybe the industry. I don't want to. I can't speak for everybody, but maybe there were operators that were looking at this and saying, "Okay, you're not just dealing with us now. We have a bit of a backstop." I'm not sure if that's true anymore. I'm not sure that it isn't, but it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Where is like the ceiling for iCasino growth right now? Is it product? Is it regulation? Strategy?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think, regulation is good. And when I was at Gaming Innovation Group, we went into 30 different regulated markets from a tech perspective. With High Roller, we're going into Finland, which is going to regulate Ontario as well in progress, and excited about Alberta. But, I think overall, like, people are confused. Like, some markets are regulating, some aren't. Some are doing it in a really good way. You've take Germany, for example, a great market. Through regulation, they just killed the customer experience. So, I think that's a little bit of a barrier for online casino growth, is like people have been operating in these sort of gray markets for quite a long time, and it's gone well. And then regulation comes in, which everybody's excited about because it puts a framework in. But if it's, predatory to the customer experience, then that sort of, kills that whole revenue model, basically.
Yeah.
I think also is like changes with regards to player acquisition. So, your traditional models of SEO, affiliation, that sort of thing, with AI coming such full force now, and people using like AI models to search, like ChatGPT, how does that translate into the online casino industry, and how does that, affect like acquisition of customers?
Kind of marketing bans affect acquisition of customers.
Exactly.
Yeah. And how do you see that? How do you see that happening? Because obviously retention is the goal, and it's easy to acquire, but hard to maintain. So what are you guys seeing that actually works, moves the needle? Have you tried anything and you found out like, oh, well, that doesn't work?
I think so, I mean, going back, I've been in the industry 20 years, spent half of it running casinos, casino managers, that sort of thing. And, I always really liked the CRM aspect of it. And like, but, back then, I was working, say, for NordicBet, and things were very planned. Like, you would have a CRM strategy, and this is what you're doing for the next 3 months. And if you didn't hand over like the material to Marcom, like 6 weeks ahead, you got your hand slapped, and it's, we can't do it. But now, we're doing everything that we can to have like the retention campaigns as real and quick as possible, like, but related to like what's actually going on in the world, and then kind of bringing that back into the customer experience rather than having something that's, been planned 6 weeks ago. There's, I mean, obviously with the political sort of system now, there's like material every day that you can use to like activate and retain, and, moving away from sending out an email to SMS to, video content, that sort of thing. Like, but it just needs to be relevant. And I think that's what people want now. They don't want something that you planned 2 months ago.
When you asked about innovation opportunities in iGaming, I think this is one of the areas I'm excited about. And one thing Ben didn't say is Ben was involved in happy hour investments, which is pretty widely invested across the iGaming ecosystem. Like really forward-thinking group, a lot of early-stage companies with innovative technology, and similarly invested across the ecosystem with different kinds of technology. And I think there's so much opportunity for product innovation. On one hand, the iGaming business is changing because you do have changing regulatory regimes or structures around the world, whether it is markets becoming regulated, whether it's looking at crypto, which is a huge opportunity to probably grow the market, change the way payments are made faster. It's super interesting. It's an interesting topic. I love the CRM topic because, 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't do what you can do now. Now you can do real-time bonusing, hyper segmentation. You can predict the point at which a customer might churn and then try to, make them an offer that, keeps them there. And by the way, just going in a lot of different directions, but tangentially, like as this relates to responsible gambling, I think one thing that many operators overlook, maybe it's becoming more know now, the more responsible you are as an operator, the longer you keep a customer and the more value they drive for your business. So the great irony is that, operating in a non-predatory way or operating responsibly and providing an entertainment product is actually the best thing for everybody. So I think if you look at CRM through that lens too, it becomes a really interesting thing. But I've seen so many interesting technologies now where you're doing, you're personalizing lobbies. So you're saying more of an Amazon model. You bought this, you'll probably like this. And you order the games in such a way that makes it natural for you to cross-sell from one thing to another, extend that player lifetime, give them a greater experience. Segmentation around bonusing is becoming super interesting, and the redevelopment of VIP programs is interesting. When you start incorporating behavioral psychology and really understanding what drives a customer, maybe a bit of a secret sauce, but if you see a person that is, if they deposit $100, say, for example, and you offer them a 10,000% bonus, deposit 100, get 1,000, they may show a proclivity to just kind of play, and that's their budget, and they lose it all the time. And then you see a customer that deposits $100 and you give them a 10% bonus for $10, but they'll play through it once to clear that 10% bonus and just churn, right? Try to take advantage of it. Well, if you're an operator and you're balancing a P&L and you want to invest arbitrary number, 10% back on average, you might bonus customer cohort A that is a playthrough cohort with huge bonuses because you know that you're going to win at a greater clip, and you might bonus customer cohort B with like much less bonuses, and then on average it sort of hits your number, but everybody gets the experience they're looking for, and you manage your business in the right way.
I thought it was very interesting when you said that responsible gaming is actually keeps your players there longer.
I mean, this is a tough conversation, I think, because historically in land-based casinos, the first line of defense against problem gaming is typically a VIP host, and VIP hosts have long been compensated based on the losses of their players. So it's this interesting thing where they're the closest customer, historically maybe without the same level of granularity and data that online gaming operators have. So what do? It's a conflicting thing, right?
Yeah.
There are two ways to look at operating, in my view. One is you're providing an entertainment experience. Obviously, you're running a business. And the other is, I guess, what we touched on with the sweeps conversation, where you're in it to win it at all costs, and you don't care about anybody else. And, I'm on the board of a business called Kindbridge Behavioral Health. It's a telehealth company that treats gambling addiction. We have a research institute that's basically coming out with all of the leading research around responsible gambling and its impact on the social fabric. And operators are supportive of this, right? Historically, gambling addiction has been classified in health as anxiety or depression, but now insurance companies are actually allowing it to be billed as gambling addiction. So people with problems, and there are people for anything, people are going to have problems with anything in excess, whether it's eating or something else, right? Drugs, whatever. Instead of burying your head in the sand about it as an operator, if you recognize that there is going to be a cohort of consumer that just can't protect themselves, then the responsible thing to do is help them protect themselves. So I think it's super important. I think, the numbers behind, I couldn't give you the numbers behind it. But if you are an operator with a lot of experience and you've been in the market for a long time, you can very clearly see that the people that are playing within their budgets are typically the players that are playing for the longest time.
But I think that's the point, though, right? Like, I remember like 18 years ago, then we went to this responsible gaming seminar, and I got really angry because the person that was giving it said like, okay, if you see a player that's depositing like $500 at a time, there's a possibility that they have like a gambling issue. I was like, okay, but what about like the people that are like depositing $30 at a time?
Yeah.
That are maybe like a school teacher or like have a lower disposable income. Like, aren't they at risk as well? Like, but like back then there weren't the technology, I don't think, was there as well to like look at these patterns. So we have like flows, which is like a rules-based engine, but then we can use that to see changes in behavior as well. As if like somebody's depositing 20, all of a sudden deposits 200, or somebody's using different cards, like real-time mechanics that we can engage at that point and proactively engage and say, is everything okay? Do you want to, should we set a limit for you? Or, you have these tools at your disposal. I mean, the UK, I think, somewhat controversial, but with regards to the affordability limits and things like that. But you can't really determine what somebody's entertainment budget is unless you know how much money they have to actually spend on entertainment.
It's all relative. I mean, this is Pandora's box, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Minority Report?
Yeah.
Yes, forever ago.
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah.
So I remember years ago, I was speaking somewhere and said, wouldn't it be cool if there was a company that was kind of like Minority Report, predictive analytics for responsible gaming? And now you have a few. You have like Necton, you have Mindway, and you can see based on that behavioral psychology, based on the data that you collect on a consumer, when they may be turning from a casual player to somebody that's at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a gambler, a lot of players don't want to admit when they may have a problem. So that's also an interesting question when it comes to when does an operator intervene? Is it the responsibility of government to intervene? Is regulation supposed to cover this? Tough one. But I think the more regulation there is, and the bigger a company becomes, the more important this issue gets.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it's not going. It doesn't mean it's going away. It just means that it's handled the right way, so people actually get help. So instead of becoming a liability for the gambling industry, I think it's important that there's a recognition. Yes, this is going to happen, just like with any other industry that has people overindulging, whatever it may be. Don't bury your head in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
Be responsible. Listen. Super important.
But I also think, regulation's a minimum requirement as well, right? Just because regulation said this is all you need to do doesn't mean that as a company and operator that you can't go beyond that. Like if they say, you don't need to have like deposit limits or something like that as part of the regulation. Like you can actually be a more responsible operator and say, we're going to have deposit limits. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get slapped by the regulator because you've gone further and, beyond it. It goes back into the sweeps discussion as well. Like you can have these mechanisms in place and be a more responsible operator in the space.
I think we're both invested in a business called ClearStake.
Yeah.
So ClearStake is a company out of the UK that does affordability checks for online gambling operators. I think this is interesting, right? On one hand, I'm a person that thinks it's somewhat abhorrent that a government should tell somebody what they can and can't do with their money. On the other hand, I recognize that sometimes it's important to have those protections in place.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, the UK has instituted its policies. This is an interesting business. I think compliance technology is super interesting in its own right. And this technology effectively will partner with an operator, and you can, when a customer is being onboarded, they can ingest all of your banking information, say, okay, well, we know you have £1,000 in your account. Mortgage payment's coming up next Friday for £800. You just tried to deposit $500. You don't get paid for another week. You can't afford that. Right? We don't want you to miss your mortgage payment. So maybe you should either not play or deposit 50 or something, right? It's interesting.
That is interesting. Because is there any like cybersecurity risk with giving away that information? Like, is that a red flag at all? Because I would be a little bit tentative to give,
I don't think so. It's fintech. I'm out of my depth on the cybersecurity questions, but it's all like pretty well heeled.
It's the same sort of technology, I think, as if you apply for a mortgage or something, and it's like, like rather than sending in 50 bank statements now, they just kind of scrape it and see, like your account information kind of thing. I don't think there's any risk, but I'm not going to get into that.
Okay. Is this a standard practice now in Europe or in the UK, did you say, or is this just an option that you can have as an operator?
I think operators are opting into it. I don't know that it's a requirement yet, but the UK is it's a mess with gambling regulation. There's all kinds of conflicting information about the harms on the social fabric.
Mm.
I've seen reports that reference like gambling addiction is causing more harm economically than the entire country is worth from a gambling industry perspective. It's stupid. I don't know what they're doing. So there are some operators who I think are taking these steps to be more responsible. Other operators are just operating the same way. But I'm not sure it's a rule yet. It's been rumored to be becoming a rule.
How do you make sure that, you're being compliant, but also, protecting the player without like ruining the fun?
I think that's the line, right? It's both taxation. I mean, we're a business. We have to, like, we're there to, at the end of the day, to make money. If you
Yeah.
tax us to a highest rate, something has to give. The same with the player experience. Like, Germany is, I think, the best example of recent times. Like, you have 5 seconds between a spin as part of regulation. Like, 5 seconds
Really?
is a lifetime. Like, if you count it out, and €1 bet max limits on slots, and things like that. That just, we're an entertainment company. Like, it just takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
But at least there's also a tax on handle and not on hold, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is another huge Pandora's box of a question, right? You have lawmakers, and I think you could say this for most countries. I mean, I could say it about the United States, having been involved in development in certain markets. Lawmakers, the people that are making law, have to be experts in a lot of different things to make law. Healthcare, uh, property zoning, gambling, and they're not experts in this. So it's, some politicians will listen to the last person they talk to. Some politicians will listen to the money, and then others actually know what they're doing. But you don't always see that come together in law, which is why you see, I guess, in the United States, sweepstakes, DFS, prediction markets, all these legal ambiguities. So for me, it's a question of, like, what is the role of government in regulation? Is it for money? Are we taxing it as much as we can? Are we becoming a partner of the gambling business? Or is it for consumer protection? Sometimes it can be both, but sometimes it's not, right? I'm not going to call it any specific state.
I was hoping you would.
But I mean, you look at some states. Pennsylvania is interesting. You have a 54% tax rate on slots. It's $10 million to get 3 licenses together, or $4 million for slots, $4 million for tables, $4 million for poker. And then you still have to partner with a land-based casino if you're an operator to get in the market and make a deal. Where is your margin? It's really hard for it to pencil. The larger companies, or the companies with an advantage because of their database or their spending power, basically, own the market at the expense of the smaller ones, who may provide an interesting experience and want to operate honest business, but they just simply cannot afford to get there because of how prohibitive regulation is. Then you look at Illinois, that instituted a fee on sports bets, right? It's now being passed to the consumers. The player experience starts to suffer when companies realize, okay, we can't just have growth at any cost. We actually have to, it's still a business.
Yeah.
Sure, we want to provide an amazing experience, but we still have to make money to be able to do that, right? And yeah, like Pandora's box. Some people look at the gambling business and say, well, it shouldn't exist at all. And other people say, other people recognize it for what it is. But you can't operate a business, especially at this scale, with so much consumer demand without actually employing people. People cost money. You need offices, you need infrastructure, you have payment vendors, compliance vendors, so much cost. So if a tax rate is prohibitive, that's just straight off the top. And what's it being used for? I can't tell you what it's being used for in some places. In some places, it's great. Like, I'm on my soapbox now, but Colorado is amazing, right? Because Colorado took sports betting legislation and tied it to water conservation initiatives, a real thing. Colorado water basically keeps New Mexico, Arizona, and parts of California and Utah alive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have now a surplus there. It's kind of like what cannabis did for school funding in Colorado. But then you have some states where tax revenue just sort of goes where?
Yeah.
Right? There's no reinvestment into public policy initiatives that actually matter. It's just a lot of bloat, and it's tough.
Yeah.
Tough for me to watch.
That is interesting. So you guys, we talked about at the beginning, you guys were saying that is it crypto casino? Would you call it that? Or what do you say? Crypto gaming? Crypto gaming? Yeah.
It's big globally.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Globally. Okay.
Like the U.S. specifics. I'm not, maybe we're more well-versed.
There's still operators in the crypto market that serve the U.S. I think regulators now are becoming a little bit more aware of this. You see cease and desist, particularly like out of Michigan. They did a very good job of policing the gray market, let's call it.
Okay.
Crypto is interesting, right? It's meant to be a mechanic that you can trust because you have readable, auditable blockchain, right? Everything is recorded. You can trace everything the right way. Like it's supposed to be a mechanic that can work absent regulation, which is why you see it in a lot of more emerging markets. But I think as crypto becomes more I'm not a crypto expert, by the way, but I think as crypto becomes more acceptable, we're seeing like on a government level now, it's becoming more of a thing. Maybe it lends itself to a soft entry. So talking about the US, crypto payments are faster, right? In the US, in order to get on an online gambling site in a regulated market, you have to do your KYC. So if you're a consumer, you put in all your personally identifiable information, your social security number, you upload your photo ID or do a biometric verification. There's a lot of friction. And then you go and set up your funding mechanic. Juxtapose this with a country like Finland, where Hyrule is operational, you can do pay and play. So you're actually KYCing with your bank, and then you're on and you're playing. It's safe. Crypto, I think the biggest problem in the global gambling space is the same as sweepstakes in many ways. You have some groups doing it right, some groups just operating with impunity, some groups with zero KYC, some groups with all of it. Crypto is also interesting if you're a nation with a large unbanked population. Maybe you don't trust your government and the government's banking system. Crypto is where you keep your money, and so that's how you transact. Pretty big in Latin America, for example.
Okay. I was going to ask, where is that big?
Yeah, like
Latin
America is a good example of that. A lot of crypto gaming down there. But if you look at the regulations around payments in most U.S. markets, you'll see wording, don't take me word for word, but directionally, wording that says these payments are approved by the Regulatory Commission and other payment mechanics that may be approved from time to time. So I think it was North Carolina, Wyoming, and maybe one other state that introduced the conversation about crypto onboarding, like onboarding deposits or enabling deposits and withdrawals in crypto. If you convert it to fiat for regular money, can you use it to fund accounts? So those have to be, you don't actually need to pass new law in most states for this. You just need it to be understood and approved by the regulators, which is its own challenge.
Where do you see it going in the next 5 years? Do you think it'll be regulated everywhere?
Yeah, I would say I think crypto, like funding with crypto, we'll probably see that in the nearer term. We see it in a lot of other markets. In some regulated markets, you can do it under certain licenses. It's a really complicated thing. And I think that's not seeing it so widely now is a function of just not being understood by the people that actually have to write the rules for it.
Okay.
Crypto casinos, there are some that are massive. Their roots are in, I guess, the very gray, and now that it's becoming more acceptable, I guess it becomes lighter gray. There are groups like Stake who have an ambition to be regulated. They're an amazing business. I mean, one of the best products in the world, huge team, they operate responsibly with a lot of consumer trust. Now they have to get licensed, right? What is that, their legacy mean for that? Some people might look at it one way, some people look at it another way. I think it's the same conversation as sweeps or as DFS. If you're doing it the right way, I think you have an interesting future.
It's also a little bit contradictive as well, right? Like governments start to support crypto, actually holding currency, but then you can't pay with it to deposit with it, but then you can use it for other industries and things like that. Like, the shift into e-commerce and things like that, where you can use crypto to actually buy commodities. Like, why is then casino or sports betting singled out of, no, you can't use crypto for that? There's not a logical path behind that.
By the way, crypto is chargeback proof. One of the, a big cost for online gambling companies and unregulated companies is the risk of chargebacks. So consumers that either don't recognize a charge on their bank statement, call their bank, you have to go through it. It's a painful process on the operator side to fight it, even when you have all the information. Sometimes you don't always win. And typically operators will budget up to 1.5% of their top line to deal with something like that. But if you have a crypto funding mechanic, you can't charge it back. Transactions made, it's verified. It's interesting.
Okay,
It's
interesting.
the same as Seth touched on it earlier, like Finland with pay and play. It's a similar mechanic, right? And we love that market from the way the customer experience is seamless, but also if somebody asks for a withdrawal, the money's in their account in like literally 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So that's as close to like that real money gambling experience of taking the ticket to the cage and getting the cash in your hand. Like, and then that's, the experience that the customer should have.
Yeah, if you're a consumer, if you're an operator and you put yourself in the shoes of the consumer, what do you want? You want to get, if you win, you want to get paid fast. You want to get paid, but you want to get paid quickly.
Yeah.
I think this really helps. I'm bullish on this. I think it's a really good thing for the gambling business. I think it needs to be a bit more education around it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So bold predictions. Where do you guys think online casino will be in 3 years?
Much larger. I think it'll be more global regulated footprint. There'll be some shifts in the US as well. But I think there's like this transition from retail to online. And it's not just casino industry specific. It's, across everything. Like people don't go into retail stores really to buy, so much anymore, like Amazon. I think I went and tried to buy a suit the other day, and it's like, you can try it on here, but we don't actually have anything in the store. And then we're going to send it to you. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. So, that kind of experience is shifting from a digital perspective anyway. And I think, like if you look at what's happening in Latin America, for example, there's a shift to regulation. Brazil went earlier this year. Peru's regulated. We see Chile probably coming up. So I think globally, like there is this shift to regulation as well, which, will then again shift more people onto the online casino.
I agree with that. Consumer consumption habits are changing, right? If the U.S., I think the commercial gambling business in the U.S. last year was worth about $88 billion annually. And depending on what estimates you look at, the iGaming and sports betting market is between $30 and $55 billion annually. Right now it's what, 12, 16? I can't remember. The point I'm making is that 88 billion number, in my view, will probably start shrinking. And this $30 to $55 billion number will probably start growing. Maybe on balance, it's all the same. I think if you look at Las Vegas, the shift from gaming to non-gaming in terms of the revenue composition has been interesting. Vegas has changed. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a function of online gambling, but consumption habits, right? So I see the online gambling market growing. I actually think the online lottery market is a huge market, but nobody's really talking. The sleeper market, biggest compound annual growth rate of any online gaming segment in the world.
Really?
Like just massive. It's a super exciting time to be in online gaming.
Yeah, it's funny on the lottery side. Like I was speaking to an affiliate like 2 years ago, and I said, like, what's the player lifetime that like when you send a customer to a lottery? And they're like, well, like forever. Like they'll buy a lottery ticket for every week, and like that's the customer. Like it's a super interesting industry.
Interesting. What's the average lifetime like play for iGaming?
Depends market to market, 6 months. So I mean, some like we've had customers that have been there since day one, still play with us today. It just each market is slightly different.
And the average is hard to quantify. You have, like Ben said, you have people that'll be there from day one and keep playing. Then you have people that will be there for a month, people that have been there for 18, for 24. So depends on the cohort. Putting out a good product, which we do. You have great rewards, which we do. And it's entertaining, which it is. You're playing responsibly as a consumer, which we hope you are. And so it's kind of like going to a movie, right?
Yeah. What's your age demographic?
Online gaming, online gaming tends to skew a bit younger than retail casinos. I think it depends on whether you're talking about like slots or table games or other ancillary products, but 25 to 45, even split, more or less.
Yeah.
Male female is directionally what it is.
Interesting. Oh, so an even split with male and female too.
More or less.
Slightly still pivoted on male side, but yeah.
Oh, interesting. So do you guys have any good gaming stories?
I don't know.
I have a ton. I have so many.
Can I have some of yours?
There's absolutely zero that I'm going to share on this podcast.
No.
You want to hear some gambling? Where's the camera? Want to hear some great gambling stories? Come find me at a conference.
You know what? That's really rude, Seth. Okay. I don't appreciate that. All the people who are at the conference, they're going to be listening.
See, I'm a player and I don't have any stories, which makes it, I think, even worse.
Well, that's more sad.
I'll give you one. So many, many years ago, and I'm going to keep names out to protect the innocent.
Oh, that's fine. You can also say a friend of mine. Like, you don't even have to say it's your
not even
story.
that, it's not a
It could
bad
just be
story.
something you heard.
It's an epic, like, generational run at a craps table. So I was in London. It must have been 2013, um, with a couple of business partners and some industry colleagues. Went to a dinner. Dinner was phenomenal. We started with a great glass of white. One glass turned into a bottle. One bottle turned into, I don't know, 15.
As it does.
It was
Yes.
London. It was Saturday night. We were having a great time. End up at the Hippodrome. It was 2014. I can't remember when it opened. It was fairly new. End up at the Hippodrome. I mean, we are drunk, and we are having fun. And one of my colleagues had never ever played craps, and I only played once. And there's this, what is it? The myth, the story in craps. If you're a new roller, you tend to have beginner's luck. So my colleague picks up the dice. I think everybody put like 20 pounds on the table. By the end of the night, this person had rolled for about an hour and a half without losing. I had something like $25,000 in front of me. Another one of my colleagues made like $150,000. And none of us had really any recollection of what had happened the night before. Somebody fell asleep on an empty blackjack table, and that's when we got kicked out of the Hippodrome. They paid us, which was great. So huge beginner's luck.
Yeah. How much did he make?
20-ish.
Was that the last time you were allowed in the Hippodrome?
I've been to the Hippodrome since. Yeah. But that was great. You hear the stories, you never really see it, you never think it's going to happen to you. But you're starting with a little. That's the dream when you're playing, right? That's what you play for.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a great time.
Yeah.
Pre-kid and everything. Like when both my wife and I were working in Gibraltar, and then there was a casino in San Roque that's on the way. We were working in Gib, but living in Spain. And then we'd kind of go every Friday, and then we thought that we had like this system down for like beating them out of blackjack, which went well for like about 4 weeks, and then it just completely crashed. That was
No.
We were up a little bit, and then that was done.
I'll give you one more. My other favorite gambling story. Years ago, living in Las Vegas, really enjoyed going to bingo. So I once went in a full body pink gorilla suit just to terrorize the blue hairs, and yelled bingo on like every third pull.
Oh, they don't like that.
Oh.
So I'm not sure that was what you're looking for, but it was really fun for me.
A friend of mine did that at Suncoast once, years ago.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you just get kicked out? Yeah.
It's like getting kicked out, but the anger of a bunch of like people that could be your grandmother looking at you.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's
And those bingo players, they do not mess around.
No.
They are very serious about their bingo. So I'm sure you made a lot of enemies that night.
Fine with it.
Yeah. So we ask everyone this, who do you think should come on the podcast next?
There are a lot of people I think would be, probably a lot of people that would be interesting. For my money, one of the most interesting people in gambling is Quentin Singleton. And I know he's working with UNLV Blackfire. Quentin has a lot of interests. He's so smart. He's also like one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet. I really like the way that he looks at the world. I'd like to hear him talk about any number of things with you. He'd be a great guest.
Who do you think?
I think I'd like to see Chris Groves on the podcast. I think he's also local, isn't he? Yeah. Just a wealth of experience across so many different parts of the gambling industry and beyond. And if I throw another name out, Justin Park, I think what he did with Betty in Ontario is super interesting. Big journey, and I think also like a fascinating story on the approach that they took.
I'm going to give you one more who's somewhat related to Quentin in the sense that at the last couple of conferences, I've been doing this amazing panel called Pardon Disruption, where it's like a quick format Q&A, and I've typically had Quentin on one hand, and then Davis Catlin, who's also Las Vegas local, on the other hand. And I love Davis, same as Quentin, like super smart, super cool. And Davis has opinions, and he's not afraid to share them. And I think that's amazing, especially, by the way, in the context of gambling becoming so corporate. The corporate culture, especially with public companies, it's really hard to actually say anything sometimes. So opinions are more rare these days, whereas 10 years ago they weren't. I really, really like and respect that.
Well, thanks so much for coming on today, guys. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having us. It's
Thank
been
you.
wonderful.
Awesome.